All right, I think we're live. Hey, Laura.
Hi.
Here today. We are so excited to hear from you.
Thank you for having me. This is a delight.
Thank you. Okay, well, why don't you just start with giving me a little bit of background for our audience and tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah. So I'm Laura Kashner. I mainly do all graphic design. I've had my business, I really started freelancing in college, just when people asked me to do things for them. But my official business opened in 2012, and that has been an array of things from branding to website, but the bulk of it has been publication design. And I just recently, like this past week, just launched my own magazine, which I think we'll talk more about over the course of this video, but has been a really exciting shift in my business. Kind of like a 5-year in shift, but it's been really great. And I'm also a mom. I have 2 little girls, and we live in Illinois, and we keep things busy here. It's just crazy, but I wouldn't have it any other way. And having my own business has been such a blessing. And just really my time, that I'm able to really do what I love, but also be a mom and be a wife. And that's why I love entrepreneurship. It's been great.
No rest for the weary, that's for sure.
No, I can sleep in like 30 years when they're out of college.
Yeah, you'll get to that eventually.
Yeah, yep.
Okay, well, I am so excited that we get to talk to you today, especially during such an exciting time for your business, like you said, with the launch going on this week. And we'll definitely get to that in a little bit here. But I think you kind of touched on it a little bit, but did you start with just opening your business right out the get-go, or did you kind of do the, full-time job, side hustle deal?
Yeah. So right after college, I did jump into the corporate design world at a publishing company, but I still had freelance stuff going on the side. Because ultimately I knew when we did start having kids, I would want to stay home. Both my parents are entrepreneurs, and I'm just used to that lifestyle. And I wanted that for my family. So I worked 3 years in the publishing industry, and then we had our first child, and that's when I officially started my own business. Yep. But I kind of just jumped in and, didn't officially form a business or anything like that until 2012, like literally the summer before I had her. And so the way that I've approached my new business, this new magazine, has been completely different as far as, okay, we're treating this like a real business right off the gate, as opposed to back in college. You're going to pay me $150 to do a logo. Great. I'll just take that money and not be an official business. So I've learned a lot in launching this kind of sister company to my design business that has saved me so much headache. So
yeah, well, and that's one reason why I was so excited to talk to you about this today. Because for so many of us, I mean, myself included, when I started my calligraphy company,
mm-hmm.
it was just a hobby that I was thrilled to get paid for.
Right.
And a lot of times that's what our businesses start out as. But
absolutely.
Your magazine, Whitespace, I mean, it looked professional a year ago before it was even a product yet.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind talking a little bit about just the process behind that, let's start at the beginning. When did you start planning your magazine? Yeah.
So actually, in 2014, which is just crazy, that's 3 years ago, that's when the idea first came to me. I was enjoying the work I was doing, and I had just started to work for some other publications, but I also had this just idea in me of that I want to be in charge of my own magazine. I love doing the design for these other people, but I have a voice and I have a specific vision for something. And I didn't even know what that was. Like Whitespace wasn't even a thing in 2014. I just knew I have this idea. I want it to be a magazine. And so it's like just simmered in my mind for 2 years until I took action on anything. And I think looking back, I think there's so much to be said for like, just start, just like dive in and do something. And that's what I did with my design business. But I also think there's something to be said about letting something simmer and kind of like take shape in your own head before you show anyone else or tell anyone else about it. That has been really beneficial for me. It's just kind of letting this simmer in the back. I had other work going on. And this was kind of just like an idea that I kept to myself for a long time. And then I just started telling close friends about it. I started to meet other designers at conferences, and I said, hey, I have this idea. Is this something that you would even need, what you would want to read? And that was so valuable too, is before I had a website or anything, just talking to people and asking, is this something that is missing in your life? Is this something that could fill a need for you? And then see what kind of response you get. And around that time, it was probably this time last year, like Whitespace as an idea started to take shape. So that was 2 years after I had even had this idea. So like that's, to some people that might seem crazy, like you waited 2 years, but really, I mean, I had a baby in there and all, I mean, I wasn't just like not doing anything, but I think there's something to be said about letting something simmer. And I think that's why this has appeared so professional from the beginning, is because I kind of had a lot of those initial hiccups, like taken care of by myself and just conversations with friends. So yeah, about a year ago, I finally decided, okay, this is what I'm going to call the magazine. This is what's going to be in it. And then February of this year is when I kind of launched it to the world, and I formed another company and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, from start to finish, from like the idea to actually sending it to print has been 3 years.
That's incredible. I knew it had been a minute. I didn't.
Yeah. But I think it's been so beneficial. I've gotten to be so focused and so clear on what I want this to be, instead of jumping in and like having all these options and not really talking with people and asking, what do you need? What's missing in your life? So
yeah, you set a clear path and direction from the beginning. I think that's so smart. I feel like that message is not shared that often in our creative world. So I'm really glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
I feel like that's beneficial to people hearing it for sure.
Oh, good. Well, maybe I need to talk more about it because really, like, I think people just think, oh, you just did this. And no. Like so many hours of just thinking that like didn't bring any money in, like just were spent thinking and making sure that this was going to be something that served people and not just something that was going to be pretty that I was going to be proud of. Like, that's not what business is about. So yeah. 3 years. Crazy.
Okay, so now that we're talking about it, why don't I know, of course, about the magazine, but tell us why.
So I ended up like, so all these ideas in my head, and it's like, what could this be? And I really kind of landed on the idea of this being like a printed art show. Some of my favorite magazines are magazines that have very little text, that almost are like coffee table books. But coffee table books are so pretty and bulky and serious. Like you don't feel like you can really flip through them or order another one in, the next time one comes out. So I wanted something that had the visual like feel of a coffee table book, but something that was super accessible, like a magazine. So I wanted to kind of marry those two. And I also wanted to marry the idea of what Whitespace is like in design and art, and how that can be applied to what Whitespace is in your life. That has been a message that has really impacted me the past couple of years, in just building a home and managing time and managing a family and managing a business, is that if I don't have enough Whitespace around me, I cannot focus on what is most important. And that is what Whitespace is in design. Whitespace exists so that whatever is most important in that composition, whether it's a photograph or a magazine cover, or a website design, your eye can go directly where the designer wants your eye to go, is because there's a nice white space around that object. So that whole idea of marrying Whitespace in art and Whitespace in life, and kind of interviewing other artists on how they are finding this white space in their life, is kind of the direction that this first issue is going. It may change issue by issue, but that's what this first one looks like. And it's been received so well. I think this is something that people really want to grasp onto and learn more about. And so that's where we are with this first one.
So exciting. And I love, like you said, I love how first that you've married the idea of kind of like a hybrid coffee table book with a magazine. Because I know myself, like I love collecting coffee table books, but none of them are on my coffee table because I'm like afraid the dog will.
They're so serious. I know. Yeah. I think there is some, like the idea of a coffee table book is super fun. And then yeah, they're like these precious items that we feel like we can't like dog ear or anything. And so that's why I like the idea of keeping it like a magazine still, because that just seems a lot more, you know, approachable and friendly, in my opinion.
That's exciting. Okay, well now that so you've talked about kind of how long it took the idea to form and then come to fruition, and we've talked about the magazine.
Mm-hmm.
Mind going a little bit more in depth and talking about like the actual concrete steps that you took
Yeah.
to make this like you said, an official business?
Yes, absolutely. So before I formed any sort of company, I sent out like a giant survey to like 10 people that were like what I thought were my ideal people that I wanted to buy this. And just to kind of get some social proof that this was something that real people that I know in my life would read. And the feedback that I got from that was just incredible and made me pivot a little bit, and also verified that this was a great idea and that I need to move forward. So after that, I officially like launched the website and then marched right over to my lawyer's office and opened the LLC. So what we ended up doing is opening up an umbrella LLC that houses both the magazine and my design business. So like paying somebody to do this was just like, yeah. This is like my number one piece of advice to anyone, because like 2012, Laura would have been like, oh, I'm just going to save money and DIY. Like I'll figure out how to do this on my own. But no. Like time and headache is so much more, or like not having a headache about it is so much more valuable to me than this money that is sitting in my bank. I would rather pay a professional to handle this for me.
Right.
So that was a dream, just handing it off. And that was a wonderful experience. Anyone who's afraid to have someone do it, like lawyers are really friendly people. Like look how friendly Paige is. And they know what they're doing and they want to help you. And they're excited that you're taking a big step and trusting a professional to handle it for you. So if you're afraid, like I was in 2012, you will thank me. You have to have somebody else do it for you.
Saying that, just because from my perspective, I see the peace of mind that people end up with
on
the side, but it's like there's that wall up, and a lot of people don't see that at the outset. So
yeah, and also I think having somebody else do it makes you feel like you're a big girl and you've got your big girl pants on and you're making this a real thing and not just like this little tiny hobby that's just going to stay in your little like 2 by 4 foot desk. No, like you're going to have this official like paperwork that says this is an official business, and it's going to keep you accountable to keep moving forward and, you know, finding a way to make money so you can pay off the bill that you just paid this lawyer. Like instead of keeping it all contained and DIY, it's just, it makes you treat this like a business and not a hobby.
Right.
And so that was a major thing. So forming a new LLC for the magazine. And then I also moved right ahead and had Paige help me with the trademark, which is another big expense. But I knew if I was going to treat this like a real magazine, I needed that. I needed to handle it and take care of it. And really, it's not a big expense because it's going to like it. It's not. It's a no-brainer. You have to have it. And then from there, we worked together on getting all of our terms and all that kind of stuff together. And then it just kind of started unraveling. I started interviewing artists. I hired photographers and writers to come along to make this first issue possible. And it's been a whirlwind, but all of a sudden we're here launching it and we're going to print in 2 weeks. So, that's nuts. That's just like a big fog in my head. But I can't tell you how much of peace, you said peace of mind, but also just the anxiety that if something does happen, I'm completely covered and safe. Right. That's the major thing.
Exactly. You've put up all the safeguards that you can right now forward, and which I think serves so many purposes, of course, but one, it makes you look like a professional to these artists and photographers and people that you're reaching out to. Two, I know that it's scary, especially in the world of, you know, copycats that we seem to live in. I know they've always been there, but it's so bad now. I know that putting out a physical product I know that's a thought that goes through your mind for sure.
Yeah.
So getting that protection in place is the best way to put your craft out there.
Yep. And I also think that it's not so scary if you've planned for it. And so a year ago, I was already in the mindset of, okay, this is the amount of money I need to have saved up front. I know how much all of these things are going to cost me. Instead of making all of this money bank on this magazine that we don't know if it's going to sell, like honestly, still, like it's already launched, but it could stay super small for this first year or two. Saving up money for my design business to go ahead and pay for all of these bigger ticket items has taken the pressure off of making this magazine like something that's perfect. Because if I have in my mind that this magazine's got to cover this expense and this expense and this expense, I'm putting way more stress on making this magazine perfect than making it a good magazine that people will buy. So that's been something that's been huge too. It's just saving up, knowing what investments you're going to need to make, and doing other work that maybe you don't love as much to pay for those expenses. And kind of like respecting this new passion project a bit. Instead of putting all the pressure on this magazine, I did some other work in the background. I recently decided I wasn't going to do any more websites because I don't like it. But I took on 3 or 4 new websites to pay for all these bigger ticket things. So sometimes there's just like a balance of how you're making money and respecting also the passion of it too. So
exactly. I think that's so important. And I think that we romanticize having a small business. And we think, if we're just brave enough to take that first step, then it's all, unicorns and rainbows. And we just get goes through. And I think it's important for people to hear that sometimes you have to do the hard behind the scenes work, even though you're so many years into your business, you've already arrived, that the business is successful. But you still have sacrifices to move like that.
Right.
So
that's
so important.
Yeah.
Okay. Totally. Kind of like piggybacking off of that. I feel like I've had a lot of conversations with creatives who we all have multiple interests, multiple hobbies. And some of us, just like you did successfully, want to kind of pivot in our brand a little bit or open up like a secondary aspect of the brand. So do you have any advice on how somebody can go about doing that successfully?
Totally.
I know that's a broad question.
Yeah. Because what a lot of people don't know is that my original company is Laura Kashner of Photography and Design, and that I used to do a ton of photography. Like I shot portraits, I shot weddings. Nobody knows that because that was back in 2012, 2013. And I've taken all that off. But I was exactly like that person you just described. I wanted to try all these different things, and I was pretty good at a lot of things. And I think looking back, that has served me so well. Because now I'm making a magazine where I have to look at a photograph and say, this is a great photograph and this is why. Or back when I had an Etsy shop, I have to figure out shipping and all that stuff. And now that's serving me now. Even back at my publishing company, learning how to set up files for press. I hated it back then, but now I'm this has served me so well. So I think exploring, if you're interested in something, just go for it. It doesn't have to be this giant business to start. You don't have to open up a sister brand or anything. Try something, see if somebody likes it, see if they're going to pay money for it, and then replicate that. Try it again. If people are paying you for it, keep doing it. Explore. I don't think you need to put yourself into this box of, this is the only thing I offer. This is the only thing you can get from me. I think if you enjoy it, it's a strength of yours, and someone's going to buy it from you, do it. And you have no idea how that skill is going to benefit you 5-10 years down the road in your business, or if you do something else. I think if I'm a firm believer in things happen for a reason. And I think if something falls into your lap that somebody's going to pay you for, or you have an itch to try something new, you should just go for it. You never know how it's going to benefit you in the long run.
I agree so much with everything that you just said. I mean, that's a year ago, I, decided to make an Instagram account for the calligraphy I was doing for fun in the evenings. And I didn't, act like I was a professional calligrapher by any means.
Right.
Following that curiosity, that led me here.
Look where you are. And it's as simple as that. It is as simple as starting a new Instagram account and just having a place for all that kind of work. You don't have to make a business out of it. It can be this hobby that blesses other people and fulfills your need to use this part of your talent. don't put the pressure on something new you want to try by trying to make it a business. I'm like such a firm believer in that. Although if you're getting money from people, you need to like somehow like, legally include it in your business. But I say just go for it, try it out, and you'll learn if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. But what are you going to lose by just trying it out?
Exactly. When I think just reaching out, like you said, and just handling it case by case at the outset, it's not like you have to rewrite your entire website and rebrand yourself and all that. Just start kind of behind the scenes and grow organically.
Right.
So I think a lot of people are nervous about that too. They don't want to look like I guess they have a little imposter syndrome going on.
Yeah, I know. Totally. And yeah, just take like the seriousness off of it. Just, have your business and then have your hobby. And then somehow if this hobby like makes your way into a business, then it's great. You'll know that that's right when the time comes. But don't put the pressure on something you're passionate about.
Absolutely. I think that's so important. Okay. Well, I feel like I just have so many more questions about Whitespace itself. But I know we're only one, I was going to say episode in, but that's not the right word.
Issue episode. Yeah.
How many times are you going to be publishing per year? I don't know.
So it'll be twice a year. So in the fall and in the spring. That just seems like a good amount of time for the content that we're creating to produce something that's in print. Right. But who knows, that'll change. Like I'm still kind of at the fly by the seat of your pants, like kind of still figuring out that part of it, but that's the plan for now is twice a year.
Gotcha. And I don't know if this is something you figured out yet or not, but this is just my own curiosity. Are you accepting submissions from people, or if somebody wants to be featured, I guess, who are you looking for? And would they be able to contact you and submit something?
Yep. So as soon as this first issue launches, which will be end of October, we'll be opening up the theme for our issue 2 printed art show, which that is like, there's a theme and then you can submit your work. But you can also submit someone or yourself if you'd like to be one of our featured artists. And we're not only looking for artists, kind of just creative women who are embracing white space in their life. We have a few that we are looking forward to contacting in the next couple months for this next issue that aren't necessarily artists or designers. They're in the creative field, but they also just are women that are embracing white space. So if that's you or someone please email me. But we also have a section in our website that's spaces, which is something I'm really excited about. So if you own a shop or a gallery or some sort of store, some sort of space, a co-working space that you feel like embraces white space as in interior design, we are accepting submissions for spaces as well, for both online and in print.
Yeah, that's a question just in my own personal conversation.
Oh, yeah.
People that has come up who are excited to hear more about it. So
yeah. And we have a whole submissions page on our website that has all those details too. So, yeah.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about like launching and just kind of pivoting in your business like that. And so I guess my final question for you today is just, and it's kind of broad, but if you have one piece of advice for somebody who has a business already and is wanting to branch out and really, start kind of that passion project they've been doing. What piece of advice would you give them, whether that's the first people they need to contact or just what they need to think of?
Yeah. So I love this question. And I feel like I've just recently been able to wrap my mind around like, okay, what's been like the one sentence thing that I've focused on this entire time? And really it's, you can start small and start well. And that has summed up how I've handled this entire process is I've really done the background, like not fun stuff of talking to people, making sure this is something they need, making it legal, getting a trademark, doing a lot of other design work so I can pay all of our photographers, which is something that a lot of other magazines do not do. Pay all of our photographers, pay all the writers that are helping me put this first issue together. Pay a print bill that we don't have advertising to cover yet. Like that's also a major thing is this first issue doesn't have advertising because I wanted to get one issue under our belt before we kind of tackled that. So that's something we'll probably add on next year. But usually the advertising covers a lot of these expenses, but that hasn't been the case for this first one. So I've had to do a lot of other stuff so I could produce something that was really well thought out and done the right way. So that all goes under starting well. Like you can start small. This may be like a really small run of magazines for this first issue, but I know in my heart that I've done everything the right way, even though this one is going to start small. That just gives me peace of mind at the end of the day, knowing that people have been paid for their time. I'm doing everything legally, by the books. And that has made this passion project feel like way more important and significant to me than just treating it like a passion project. Right. I've treated it like a serious, like 8-figure business from the beginning, even though it's not that. But because I'm treating it that way, it's given me a sense of pride too. Like this is something that I'm super proud of because I've invested a lot of time and money into doing it the right way. So starting small, but starting well is like my biggest piece of advice to anyone looking to make a little pivot or a shift or just try something new. It doesn't have to be this giant thing, but you can do it the right way from the beginning.
I think that's incredible, Laura. That just makes me even so much more excited. And I do have to say, I pre-ordered my copy.
I know. I saw it whenever I see names come through that I know. I'm like, this is so cool. It's just, it's so cool. And my mom and my grandma were my first 2 orders, which is, I think is adorable. My grandma will always tell me, Laura, I have no idea what you're doing, but it just looks so great. I can't wait to get your magazine. So when I saw her name come through, I'm like, that's so sweet. And then I see you and like all my other friends come through, and it means the world. So thank you, Kate.
I feel like there's nothing but a bright future ahead. You've done such a good job of putting it together, and you can just tell. I mean, you can tell the project has integrity behind it.
Thank you.
You can tell it's quality already. So.
Thank you. Well, I have to tell you that you have been such a dream to work with. And this is not about like promoting Paige, but I have to say like you have been the absolute dream like in this whole process of like taking everything that stresses me out completely out of my head and out of my plate. And thank you for that. Like so you were a godsend. Truly. Truly.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm glad.
Okay. Well, so for anybody who is now wanting to purchase the magazine or just find you online, tell us where they can find you and Whitespace.
Yeah. So whitespacemag.com is the magazine website, and then it's at whitespacemag on all social. And then I'm at Laura-Kathryn, Kathryn.com. And then my Instagram handle is Laura Kashner, and that's where you can find us. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. It was so
fun.
Thank
you, Paige. Thank you. Absolutely. My pleasure.